Hey, it's Vass here from Aussie RC Airspace, and today we have something very special on the bench. We have the Maxford USA Gee Bee-E. Now, this is a very old model. I picked this up from Facebook Marketplace. I'm always on there from time to time, kind of browsing to see if there's anything that sort of pops up and grabs my eye, or to see if there's any sort of bargains that you can grab. And this one came up. The guy that was selling it was actually a fellow club member, which I didn't realize he was a club member at the time. And he was selling this as well as a couple of other planes. But this one in particular really grabbed my attention. And I was pretty keen on grabbing it from the photos. Now, he originally had this advertised as an old Hobby King Gee Bee. But I gotta say, I didn't find any evidence online to suggest that Hobby King ever sold this particular model. I know that Hobby King had a Gee Bee back in the day, but it looked a little bit like this. However, this one, I did a little digging and found out that it was actually a Maxford USA Gee Bee-E, to be specific. There is another version of this, which is essentially the same airframe, but the cowling here is a little bit different and probably a bit more recognizable to what you'll sort of consider a Gee Bee. This one was quite unique. And I got it home. It was basically a plug and fly type of scenario. I just had to install my receiver and throw on a battery and away I went. So I'm going to show you now, not the maiden flight. I somehow managed to lose the footage of the maiden flight. My card kind of, I don't know, corrupted, and I lost the actual maiden flight of this. But I did do a remaiden, which only went for a couple of minutes, because what happened was on the maiden flight, I had to give this a huge amount of trim on the ailerons, and the ailerons are actually flying like that to keep the plane flying straight. Now, I don't know why that is. It could be a twist in the wing core somewhere, something that the naked eye can't pick up. But I've never really had a plane that has pretty much a 5mm deflection on ailerons, where one is up and one is down by that much, just to keep the plane flying straight. So I did the remaiden on it. You'll see that it only goes for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you a bit more about this plane and how I got it to fly the way that it is at the moment. Okay. Come on, roll out. Here you go. Okay. All right, so it needs aileron to the right. Okay. And that is all I needed to know. Bit of down trim, more aileron. All right, we've got it sorted, so let's see, try and land it on the next circuit. Still climbing a little bit. Still needs a couple of clicks. All right, balsa tree, stay away from my plane. Oh. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right, first approach here. All right, easing off. Oh, buttery. Okay.
Motor off. Driver stop.
So it was aileron to the right. So as you saw, the remaiden went pretty well. I ended up figuring out which way my ailerons went and got all that sorted out. So now the plane does fly perfectly straight, but it does have an aileron deflection like that, which is a bit odd. I don't know why that is. Again, it may be a twist in the wing core or something else that's going on that we can't see with our naked eye, but at least it flies straight and it flies well, and that's all that really matters. Now, aside from that, I was having one other issue, and that was the ESC. Now, this comes with, or came with, an 80 amp Hobbywing Skywalker ESC. And the ESC was mounted originally on the side of the battery tray, which was nice, easy access. Your cables are right there, you can plug your battery and everything was good. But every flight that I had with this, when I went to unplug the battery, I would always test the ESC and it was really hot. Now the motor that I got with this plane, because this was of course sold as an ARF, and then of course you put in whatever motor you want. There was of course some suggested motors, but you could put whatever. And this is what came on this particular plane. It's this motor right here. But you'll notice that there is no kV reading anywhere. Like it's not marked what kV this motor is. And I went on the DYS website. As it turns out, they have about 3 or 4 different versions of this motor. So this exact motor size, my camera, my God, this exact motor size just with different kVs. And I have no idea what kV this is. And I don't have a way of testing it either. So I didn't know if maybe the ESC was getting hot because it was overpropped or what the story was. So I decided, okay, you know what? I've got another motor here. I'm going to try that and see how that goes. So this is the motor that I opted for, which is a Surpass Hobby 3542 1000 kV. And I put that in there. I propped it accordingly and went out for a test flight. Now, I'm not going to show you that test flight because honestly, it's pretty much the same performance that I was getting out of the motor that it came with. So I really wasn't getting anything different between these two motors. And when I landed, I still had the ESC kind of hot. It was a bit warmer than what I would like, a bit warmer than what I would like it. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to try something different. And I decided to get a different motor, and I got a Hobbywing Skywalker motor, but this time I went to an 850 kV, which allows me to go from a 12-inch prop to a 13-inch prop, and I think this might be a 13 by 8. I'll put it up on screen. I can't quite remember if it's a 13 by 8 or 13 by 6, but I, yeah, definitely propped up a little bit. I can still run on 4S, and I shifted the ESC from being on the side of the battery tray to being underneath the battery tray, which actually sits on top. Because the battery loads from underneath, there's a little bit of space, a bit of airflow that goes through the top here. And I figured, well, if the ESC is up here, it might actually get a bit better airflow. So I shifted a few things around and mounted up the motor, got a new spinner for it as well because the original spinner was a bit butchered. And the first couple of flights I did with this, I just had like one of those little nub spinners, those little chrome spinners on top. So I put this nice little plastic spinner on here, got a new prop for it, and took it out for its maiden flight with this Skywalker motor. And let me tell you, I'm absolutely in love with this plane. Like, it has a bit more power, not a lot more, but it has a bit more power. It gives me more confidence in the vertical as well. I don't have to fly at, 2/3, 3/4 throttle, somewhere there. I'm right at the top end of the throttle. I'm now cruising around about half or thereabouts. So it gives me just that little bit more to be able to really stretch its legs when I want to climb, when I want to do something with it. It feels a lot better in the air. It feels better balanced. The guy that had this also had a lot of nose weight up front here, so I removed some of that. I think they were using some smaller batteries, and now I'm using a 5,000 milliamp 4S, and I get about 5 minutes flight time, give or take. So it's not a very efficient airframe. For 5,000 milliamps, they only get about 4 or 5 minutes, but it does fly exceptionally well, and I'm really pleased with this purchase. There are a couple of quirks, of course, being the age that it is. There are a few things that you got to be really careful when buying secondhand planes like this. These wheel covers, for example, they're kind of like a fiberglass mold type of thing, and there's only just like 3 screws that are holding this thing to the actual wood of the plane. I think it's going into balsa or ply or something. And the screw heads have started to sort of go through this fiberglass, and they don't really hold it straight anymore. So I've got to come up with a way of fixing this permanently without gluing it on, because I don't want to glue it on. But I've got to find a way to fix this permanently so that, if this shifts as I'm landing on taking off, it's not going to bind my wheels, act like brakes and then nose over and cause all sorts of problems, because this is a really unique model. and it's not something that you could just go down to the local hobby shop and buy a new part and away you go. So I've got to make sure I look after it, and yeah, I've got an idea of how to fix this, but we'll cover that another time. Other than that, the plane is actually in exceptional condition. It flies incredibly well, as you'll see in this final flight video, because not only does it fly well, it also sounds a lot better as well. And yeah, I'm absolutely blown away with this purchase. I mean, for those of you out there who want to get something like this, you always have to be a little bit careful when buying secondhand aeroplanes, whether they're foam or balsa. Balsa specifically, you could have cracks in the frame that you probably don't see at the time of purchase, and they could become evident when you're coming into land or doing something, or put a bit of stress on it. So you do need to be really careful. This one I think I was really lucky with, and I'm happy that I've got my hands on something like this, because yeah, it's not a plane that you see very often, and it's one that really stands out amongst all the jets and high-speed machines that I have in my collection. But I'm going to stop yakking now and give you guys a final flight of this plane. Of course, if you are new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button before you go. And of course, I'll be speaking to you all next time.
Timer start. Motor on.
Oh yeah, that feels much better.
Time remaining 4 minutes.
It's awesome. I feel like I've got plenty of power in reserve now. Feels really good. Yes. It's got a nice sound to it now. That's so good. Oh, I love this.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
That's so nice. Let's see if we can actually do a touch and go this time.
Time remaining 2 minutes.
Alright, I'm going to do a couple more circuits and I'll come in. I love how this sounds now. It's so good. It's so good, man. All right, make it quick, mate, because I got to come in soon. Alright, I'm gonna come in.
Very aggressive on the throttle, more than I thought the last time.
Seconds.
This thing, it's flying so good now.
Motor
So
on.
impressed.
Stop.
So impressed.